This is the Fish and Coach Show. My name is Brandon Fisher. This is Coach Ratner. I'm super excited about this episode today.
Yeah, so have you ever been in a situation, you're facing a situation where you can take the shortcut to get somewhere? It's much easier, it can get you to your destination, or you can take the harder route, a lot more difficult, a lot more effort, but you're going to have a lot more pleasure at the end of it. Maybe you're going for a 4-year education versus a PhD. Now, we know a PhD takes a lot more effort, a lot more work. You get a college degree, you've gotten something, but it's not the same pleasure of getting a PhD.
Not just pleasure, but the opportunities that the PhD opens up for you.
Of course, but it's a lot. Think about how the work you have to do to get a PhD.
It takes a lot. It's a lot harder.
So, Brandon, where's this leading us to?
There's a story that Judaism tells that captures the moment where we have this decision between making the easy way and the hard way. So there was a rabbi was going on his journey, and he comes to a fork in the road, and he meets a kid. Both ways look identical. He decides he can take one or the other. Which way do I go? The kid says, well, this way's a lot shorter. It's the short, long way. And he says, oh, okay, great. I'll try that way because it's going to take me where I want to go, right? So he takes this journey, and it's downhill, it's smooth sailing, and all of a sudden he gets to this destination, but he realizes that he's so close and yet so far. In the way is a big meadow and guards, and it's heavily guarded, and you can't cross through the meadow. So even though he's at the destination, he can't actually get to the destination on the other side. So he realizes that he has to go all the way back and repeat his steps, and in the end, go the long, short way. He says, kid, what did you do to me? Why would you tell me to go that way? And the kid says, I told you it was the short, long way. Then he realized you don't take shortcuts in life when you're trying to get to the destination that you're trying to get to. You can get close, but if you want to get to that peak, you want to get into the castle, you got to go the real way and you got to put the effort in. You want to be a doctor, you can't just get an undergrad.
Well, yeah, but some doctors go to these foreign countries to get degrees because they can do it much cheaper and much easier than they can going to a school maybe in America.
Right, but they're still getting a medical degree at least.
They're getting a medical degree, but maybe is it the same degree?
I don't know enough about it.
Yeah.
It's an interesting point. But I think the point is, though, we want to take shortcuts because it's easier. And so many times in my life, here's one example that was the biggest moment where I learned this lesson the hardest way. I was offered to study abroad in Austria or continue my degree at University of Central Florida in Orlando. And I had a lot of great friends. I was very involved, and I wanted to stay there, even though studying abroad would have been an amazing opportunity. So my friends were advising me to go to Austria, and I said, no, I have friends here. And then one friend asked me, which one's harder? And obviously, starting over, going to a foreign country with a language that I don't know, German, without any friends, is a much harder decision. But it was a life-changing decision, and I'm so glad. My whole life grew because of that decision. I took the much harder way, and it was so much more rewarding.
Yeah, because of a lot more effort.
A lot more effort, exactly.
I decided recently. I've been running. We talked about running a lot in our podcasts, and I decided a number of weeks ago that I think I want to train for a marathon.
That's
I've always
huge.
talked about against marathons because they really take a lot in your body. But I run. I consider myself a runner, but I don't run a lot. I'm like, you know what? It's been easy for me. It's about time that I take the hard route, and I'm gonna get a lot more pleasure out of it. So, but when I look at the marathon, it's 26 I think 0.2 miles. I'm like, that's a lot of miles.
It's a lot.
That's a lot. And I run now. Let's say I run 3 miles, and I'm exhausted, and it takes me 35 minutes. I'm like, how am I gonna run for almost 10 times that? Like, how am I gonna do that? And the way I look at it is I do it in little bits. So when I run 3 miles now, I said, you know what? I've ran over 10% of a marathon just right now, just by training. And then tomorrow I'm going to add, next week I'm going to add half a mile to my, I'll do one short run a week and one long run a week. And every week I'll add a tiny little bit to my long run. And eventually it's going to become second nature for me to run 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 miles. It'll be like
1 mile at a time will start to feel easier and easier.
Exactly. And so I'm not taking the short, long way. I'm taking the long, what do you call it? The
longer short way. Because in the end, it's shorter because you didn't have to repeat your steps.
Right. That's what I hope not. I hope to get through it.
Right. Of course.
But we talk. It's funny because
when
I'm doing this, I'm like, even if I, for some reason, can't finish the marathon, if I get injured, whatever, God forbid that happens, but things do happen. Not everyone finishes a marathon.
Even the training process, which is really hard.
It's really
hard.
hard.
With challenges.
I consider it a success. The fact that I even put it in my mind that I'm willing to do this and go through this, and I have it in my mind when I'm going to do my long runs. It's going to be Friday morning,
right?
And that is already success. I've already started, and I think the first step was, you know what? Today I'm going to start. I decided that I've only done 2 runs so far, but I'm starting the process.
It starts with the first step.
It starts with the first step, and I said to my wife, I go, today I'm doing my first run towards a marathon, and it was what I considered the long run. I just did 3 miles.
3 miles,
and then I did the 3 miles, the short run, which I did on Monday this week, and this Thursday or Friday, I'm going to do 3.5 or 4 miles. I'm going to see how my body feels, but I'm going to increase every single week.
Wow.
So my plan is to do a marathon in the fall or the spring. I'm not sure. I'd like to do one here in Jerusalem in the spring, but the problem with the spring marathon is that you have to train in the wintertime.
It does mean that.
Which means you're training here.
We get a lot of rain.
A lot of rain and cold, and it's nasty. I'm like, man, that's going to be hard.
But that's the point. That's what's going to build you. Right, imagine how great it will be when it's springtime and sunny.
And I've looked at doing it because Jerusalem's very hilly. I've looked at maybe doing the Miami or the Orlando. There's now a West Palm Beach marathon. I'm sure there's other cities that have lots of flat marathons. It might be because the first time you should do it, you should make it easy for yourself. Don't make it difficult.
Right.
Because then I'm never going to do it again. If I make it so hard on myself that I'm only going to run if I'm going to run the New York or the Boston. No, I'm not. First, I couldn't get into those.
Boston is a big deal.
I couldn't get in. Right. I'm never going to run fast enough to get into Boston. I'm not planning to. But it's going to be success no matter what happens.
That's the key.
But I'm going to make it easy. I always said before, whatever you're going to do first, make it easy on yourself. That way you can get through the process. And then as you make it, and it becomes easier and easier, then you can take on harder things.
Coach, what about enjoying the journey? How do you have fun doing something like this? And where does fun play a role in achieving such a big goal?
I have to have something to look forward to. I mean, to me, it's going to be a lot. First of all, running races is a lot of fun. If you ever ran, even 5Ks, 10Ks,
they're great.
They're a lot of fun. And I miss it. I haven't done it since I had children. I kind of have put that on the back burner, I think. Mm-hmm. And now that my kids are older or getting older, they're still young, but they're getting older and they take care of themselves. I'm like, I got to start doing something for myself again, which I have kind of put that on the back burner, really, just because
putting yourself first.
I have been putting myself first, but my children first, which is fine.
Right.
And I'm not regretting any of that. I still do put them first. But now I'm going to start doing some more things for myself.
I think running a marathon is an amazing goal.
And it's certainly the longer, short way.
It is not the short way, for sure. You could do a 5K and be happy with this.
I don't think it bothers me. They have the marathon here in Jerusalem, and it's funny because if you go to in America, they say, I'm running the marathon. You're not running the 5K or the 10K. You're running the marathon. But here, they say, I ran the marathon. They ran a 5K. And it bothers me. I'm like, okay, no. If you're going to run a marathon, say you're running a marathon, you're running the marathon. Not the half marathon, not the 10K. You're running the marathon. So it's like I'm taking it upon myself to run the marathon.
To run the marathon. That's all the way. So there's an interesting point that Jim Collins brings up. I think he mentioned it he's written a lot of books. Not like you at your pace. But he's written quite a few books, and he says that it's not that it gets easier as you write more. It's still just as hard, but you can write way more and way better. So, and he said the same thing is true with running.
Go ahead.
Yeah, with running, you run a 5K, and that's really hard at the beginning. And then you run a 10K, and it's just as hard as when you ran the 5K, but you can run a lot farther because you've been training. So the marathon's not going to be easy, but it's going to be the same amount of effort as it was when you trained for the 5K. You're just more physically able to run farther.
My goal when I run is basically not speed.
Not speed.
Someone I know has a podcast called Run Farther Faster. And I want to have a podcast called Run Farther Slower. Because I am not interested. I am interested in finishing the project. I don't care how fast they get it done. I just want to finish the project.
Yeah.
I know some marathons limited. I was looking at a marathon somewhere. It was I can't remember where it was. And they limited, the Las Vegas marathon. They limit it 5 hours.
Okay.
So 5 hours, they close off the course.
You get picked up in the van.
You get picked up in the van. And that's kind of about what I'm going to run. I'm thinking is if I could, my goal would be just to break 5 hours and finish it, which is pretty slow, probably just under 12-minute miles. But I just want to finish the project.
I think that's incredible.
I'm not worried. And later on...
Just beat the van.
Yeah, just beat the van. That's my goal, to beat the van and get to the finish line.
If you're not going to finish the race, let it be because of something that you've done.
But I want to go back to the idea you mentioned about books.
Right.
That when I look at the first books I wrote 2 years ago, I'm embarrassed about them. I mean, I'm like, I don't even want to give them out anymore. I want to take them off Amazon because my writing now is so much better than it was just 2 years ago. So what I'm doing is I'm actually rewriting those books. I'm putting them into two books into one on dating, one on marriage into one book, and and I'm going to take those other ones off. Now you can say when this book comes out, it's going to come out hopefully late 2022. This year, that it will be the long, short way that it took me years and years to come out with this book. But I first had to write 2 short books to get to this book.
And you had to do it. You had to do that process.
I would never have gotten to, some people laugh at my first 2 books. They call them pamphlets because they're really small. They're like, not that many pages. But in order for me to get to the real serious books, I had to start somewhere.
And the thing is, people love those pamphlets.
They do. I had a guy call me this week. He said he read it when he was back at his mom's house.
Right.
And he says he was laughing the whole time. My first book is really funny, I have to tell you. And because it's about dating.
Which book is this one?
The 10 Secrets to Find the Love of Your Life. Because dating's funny. I mean,
so
dating
you get it before it's taken off Amazon.
It's going to get taken off. It's going to be a collector's item. Dating is funny. I mean, it's a kind of funny thing. Whereas the marriage book, The 10 Secrets to a Passionate Marriage isn't so funny. I mean, it's like it's time to get serious, right?
Right.
So it's not as funny a book. So anyway, I'm taking the longer, short way to finally get to this next book that I'm writing. So I want to also talk about when we think about investing. I like to talk about investing a lot. People like to think the short term. Oh, if I buy something today and it doesn't go up in a month, it's a bad deal.
Yeah, which is the hottest stock right now, which is increasing the quickest.
So the longer, short way when you're investing is you're investing for 10, 20 years out. You're investing for companies that are actually building something, building a product, a platform, whatever it is, building customers, and they're slowly growing. And that's how you build massive wealth, is investing for the long term.
Seeing the bigger picture.
Time in the market is more important than timing the market.
I think time is the key that has to be discussed here. We say it's so hard. We say it's you're fighting a lot more for this long way. The only difference between the long and the short way is the amount of time that it takes. Effort comes with it, but in the end of the day, we say it's hard, but really it just takes time.
It's funny. I'm training for a marathon. That's at least when I was reading about training for marathons, they said if you're going to run a fall marathon, start training in the summer. Well, I start training in April, which is like way more in advance than I need to.
The whole year, yeah.
Because I'm not thinking if I could have ran when I ran 3 miles a few days ago. I could have ran 3.5. I could have. I mean, I could run 4, whatever. My point is, I'm trying to train myself so when I get towards the marathon, that when I run 3 miles, it's be like you walking up the stairs, like nothing,
right.
like it's nothing for me to run 3 miles. I don't feel like prepared for it. I can run in a suit and in high heels. Like for me, it's like I'm not wearing high heels. Okay. That'd be a funny picture, wouldn't it? For high heels.
We want to see that.
So my point is, I want to make it so it's nothing. It's
right.
like nothing for me. So because when you run a marathon, it's a long way. I mean, and I can't picture that most people, it's funny, when I looked at how many people run marathons, besides a few of the big ones like Chicago and New York and Boston, I was shocked how few people, like only a few thousand people run like the Las Vegas Marathon, Rock and Roll Marathon. Yeah, it's amazing. Not that many people run marathons.
It's a unique elite category of people.
Yeah.
It's a big
deal. They're crazy. No, I'm just kidding. They're not crazy because I'm taking a very long-term view of an event that I'm going to train for over 6 to 8 months. And if I don't finish the marathon, I did not fail.
No, you put in the effort. It's up to you to complete.
I'm running anyway. I tell my wife, I'm running anyway a few times a week. Let me put this towards something. And if I can get it done, I get it done.
It's not up to you to complete the task, but it's not up to you to not try. Something like that.
Say it again.
It's not up to you to complete the task. I don't know how the rest of the quote goes.
But you must try.
You have
to make your effort.
You must
in
try.
Life. You have to make your effort in life. So,
Coach, I think this is going to be a challenge. To the viewers, you're going to hold them accountable. We want you to document your training just in the stories on our Instagram channel. You guys can follow along.
Okay, I mean, it's not that exciting, but yeah, I mean...
Just say today I ran, and it was really hard. You don't have to do that. Once a week, we want to know. We want to know how this training is going. We're all holding you accountable for this.
I'm not going to do that. If you ask me, I'll answer you. Contact me. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to do that. But it's funny, when you talk about long and short, I remember when I was younger and I'd buy a piece of furniture somewhere, like IKEA or something, and you just want to put it together. And I don't want to read the instructions. And I try to put it, and of course, I put one piece wrong. Later on, you find out you have to go backwards, unscrew everything and do it. And I finally learned, it took me many decades of stupidity. Finally, I got patient. What I do now, when I take out a piece of like the instructions, I take the instructions, and then they list all the different items they have. They have like the different kinds of screws and different kinds of screws. I actually count to make sure it's correct, and I put them in order, and I make sure everything's out, and I look at everything over to make sure I know what I'm doing, and I read through the instructions once, and I start again. I start with step one, and I make sure I did it right, and I do it much slower. But guess what happens?
You get it right the
I
first time.
I get it right the first time. I'm never getting frustrated. But if I do get frustrated with something I don't understand, which does happen, you know what I do?
What do you do?
I walk away.
You walk away.
I walk away. I get a drink. I call. I call a friend of mine. I take a walk. I walk the dog, whatever, and I come back. And guess what happens? My mind's all fresh. And now suddenly what issue it was I had before, like, oh yeah, I missed something because my brain was so locked in on something that I missed something.
Does that work for your writing as well?
Oh, for sure. It's amazing how I can write a chapter in something. Or even a paragraph, and I worked on it for like an hour, and I come back 3 days later, I'm like, oh, that line doesn't make sense, or there's an idea missing here. The thing I love about writing, I gotta tell you, versus speaking, that when I speak to a group of people, whether it's about relationships or finding your awesome in life or inspiration or spirituality, I can give a class. And then I leave the class like, oh, I forgot to talk about that. I didn't clarify that idea. Someone didn't understand this. But when you write, you know what happens? You can go back over and over and over and make sure you get every idea clarified, that the readers can understand what you're writing, and you can get all your ideas down and make sure that everything flows in a proper manner. You can't do that when you're speaking.
Right. You don't have the chance.
Well, some people can because they're really good.
Yeah,
but it takes a lot of time to get that
Again,
right.
It takes the time. And we put in the time.
We interviewed Rabbi Gabriel Friedman, and he said that he has spoken, 10,000 times?
I think he's had 10,000 hours just in the first 4 or 5 years.
Right. It's because he was speaking 7 to 8, 9, 10 times a day,
right,
over months, periods of times. And because of that, he knows his talks backwards and forwards. No one gets that opportunity. We talked about that with the Beatles, in Malcolm Gladwell's book, that the Beatles, they got to 10,000 hours because they had to go play in Hamburg every single week for a whole weekend nonstop.
All the time.
And then because they weren't the Beatles, they were the Beatles, but they weren't the Beatles, right?
Right.
And they came home and they put out some music, and next thing you know, they become very popular because they put so much time in together, but they had that opportunity.
I think that's the key. What you just touched on is that there's no such thing as an overnight success. We see the Beatles in America like, whoa, they're coming, they're huge, right. But how much time did it take for them? How many mistakes did they make? How much practice did they get? Steve Jobs, the same thing. And just about everybody. There's no such thing as an overnight success.
I think I read Beyonce had to put out at least was it her? I think she put out over 100 songs before she had a hit.
Wow. 100
songs.
Wow. Yeah, it's amazing.
I think that's who it is. I don't know.
It could be. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, because no one, very few people come out and suddenly become a star overnight.
And she put those out. Imagine how many other songs she's written that didn't even
get put out.
That's another key. With all these musicians, they write 100 songs to have one song that makes it onto their album.
I tell my son, I said, my son, Leon Max, he writes music, and he puts it on Spotify and YouTube, all these things. I said, just keep putting out product, keep content, keep writing, keep writing, keep writing. I said, your skill is in your writing and your thought process and your ideas, and that's mine too. Is how I think, how I put things down, how I come up with different acronyms and ideas and concepts, and that's my skill. And so I keep writing. Now I don't know if anyone's ever going to read my books, but it doesn't matter. I'm putting it out there.
You should read his books. There's just so many good ideas beyond what you get out of these podcasts.
I got to tell you, my third book called Find Your Awesome. I'm not, for some reason, I'm not really proud of the book, although people say it's a good book, is that I have so many concepts and ideas in it. It's almost jam-packed. It's almost too many ideas. I can tell you, it's probably too many ideas. In fact, you even told me that I started to put together a seminar called Find Your Awesome Seminar, and I gave it over 10 hours to a bunch of students here. And when I discussed it with you, you said to me, it's too much. You said you got to put 3 bullet points. I had 6 classes, and I did that. I narrowed it down. I still have more narrowing to do, of course.
Right.
But I've narrowed it down because it's almost too much information.
And it wouldn't have worked if you did it the other way and started with very few ideas. No. You had to have the massive menu of ideas before you found the 3 that are the key for those classes.
Right.
So you start big. That's the long and short way. And in the end, you end up with the keys.
Another great concept, this long and short idea, is learning language.
Yeah.
Because I don't, since I moved to Israel, I don't know Hebrew, but I don't know any Hebrew besides like shalom, and Abba and Ema. I don't know anything. And every once in a while, I learn a new word. And slowly, I'm catching these little words here and there. And I can't understand when they speak because I go either way too fast. But I can say, I am saying words now that I didn't know like even 6 months ago.
And how good does it feel? You might not have seen, it might have been incremental progress.
Yeah. Like, I feel like I'm never going to know it. Like I feel like I'm never going to be able to speak Hebrew. But it doesn't matter. Like I'm just slowly, not really. If I put a little more effort in, I could do it.
I think the key is that it takes time.
It takes a long time.
And you can make that longer short way very, very long if you just meander your way.
I know.
It's possible. You can run the marathon in 3 years and just run 3 miles this month, 4 miles next month. It'll take you 5 years, but you can do it.
Back to money. I want to mention something too, that when I was little, we grew up in Alexandria, Virginia, and Old Town Alexandria during the times of the 1700s was a big city.
Wow.
And it was a port for the DC area, and there's lots of old houses from the 1700s.
It's a beautiful area.
Gorgeous. It's very quaint and obviously gentrified and everything. And my father, my sisters in the 1970s, we drive by. My sister always wanted to own a house in Old Town, my sister Maura. And she said to my father, we want to buy a house. My father said, they're very expensive. They're $20,000 to $30,000 a piece. Mm-hmm. I think I must have been like 8 years old. This is probably like 1973 or something. And $20,000 to $30,000 a piece. You know how much those houses are now?
What are they worth now?
$2-3 million.
Easily.
I mean, like, what's the difference between 1973 and 2022? Time.
Yeah.
That's it.
Right.
It's just time. Time, things go up. Things, because of inflation, things just go up in value.
Yeah.
You know?
I heard a lesson the other day. Some lady was telling me she lived in a small little village here in Israel. And she said, when I was born, it was so small. But she said, everything grows. Now it's this little village in the middle of a giant city that's formed around it.
We went to the Galilee last week, and there's a city there called Tiberias, and it's some medium-sized city. But around the Galilee, the Canary, it's called the Sea of Galilee, there's all these mountains. And I said to my family, we were driving, it's gorgeous up there. I said, someday you're going to see all around this whole lake is just development. It's all going to be high rises and cities all around, and this beautiful scenery of just mountains and stuff is going to disappear.
It'll be so sad.
It's going to be sad, but it's still going to be beautiful water. It's still going to be gorgeous,
right.
But it's going to be a major city someday.
It could be
and there'll be an airport, and there'll be an airport up there.
Yeah.
And can you remember when there was no airport? I remember growing up in Alexandria, Virginia, that there was a small airport in I think it was Falls Church. There was a small little airport. You know what that is now?
What is it?
It's a mall and high rise. There's no airport there anymore.
You can't have an airport that close?
No.
There's already 2 airports.
Well, yeah. And there was one in Rockville too. Wasn't there a small airport in Rockville?
I actually don't know.
If there was.
Not since I've been alive.
I think there was a small airport in Rockville also.
So these things grow. Everything grows.
There's no room
It
for
just takes time.
Right.
And that's why real estate is always the best investment.
Oh my God, I love real estate. It doesn't go anywhere. Dirt's the most valuable thing.
Everything grows.
Yeah.
It just takes time.
I was at the YMCA this week. It's here in Jerusalem. It's gorgeous. It's big. It's got a big gym, big pool, huge basketball court. I'm like, this could never get built today because the value of real estate here is so valuable. It's right in the middle, the center of Jerusalem. That thing would be worth hundreds of millions of dollars just in the land itself. They couldn't build a gym.
No way.
They built a gym in the place where they put warehouses and stuff.
Yeah.
That's where you put the gym.
Right. Or you build an amazing high rise on top of it.
That's what they do. But but they might do someday. You don't know.
Right, for sure.
Yeah.
So here's a few keys to walk away with from this lesson.
Okay.
The short, long way is extremely appealing. It's the instant gratification journey. We all want to just get to the destination as quickly as possible. Like, let me just take a little shortcut here and there. But what happens is that success is built by the pieces that go into it. And therefore, by doing everything right the first time, makes that success so much bigger and so much more meaningful. It's real and tangible. So another key is that both paths are equally accessible to you at the beginning of the decision. They both look the same. They're both equally accessible. It's up to you to choose to take the harder, the longer, short way, and knowing that it's going to get you there. And then being okay with changing directions once you've made the wrong decision.
It's okay to change.
It's okay to change.
But you have to choose your hard because life is hard. You can be fat. Being fat is hard. Being in good shape, it's hard. Being poor, It's hard.
hard.
Being wealthy, it also takes a lot of hard work. You have to choose your hard in life.
Yeah. And when you try to choose the easy, remember the hard exists. Choose your hard.
Yeah.
Or else the hard will choose you.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for watching this episode of the Fish and Coach Show.
See you next time.
Thanks for watching the Fish and Coach Show.
If you like what you just watched, make sure you like, subscribe, and comment with any ideas you'd like to see on any future episodes.
We'll see you next time.